Today I thought we'd say farewell to the Loyal 32 and talk a little bit about Guard army building in 9th edition. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel, where we're all about getting the most out of our miniatures on the tabletop. So it looks like detachment changes have been quite a big shake-up for the Guard, and perhaps not the most pleasant one to undergo, seeing as we were already really quite good at filling out detachments as per 8th edition. Instead of armies being rewarded for filling out multiple battalions, armies must now pay if you want to have more slots available. In this video I just wanted to have a talk about the demise of the Loyal 32, talk about how Guard formation changes might impact their army building in 9th edition, and theory hammer one example army that might be looking a little bit better for us in 9th. So first of all I thought we'd start by saying goodbye to our Loyal 32. They were the subject of the first ever video I made on this channel as a bit of a test case, so it's kind of a bit of a bittersweet goodbye for me. For those that aren't aware, this was the practice of taking 2 company commanders and 3 infantry squads to make 32 people to fill out your minimum size battalion and generate 5 command points for the army. It was a pretty decent asset to have in the Imperial Guard army, as it meant that we could very easily fill out 3 different battalions, generate 18 command points to start the game with, and it would only cost us 540 points, and in doing so we'd basically unlock any of the slots that we wanted for including other units in the army. It was a bit more controversial as a common part of Imperial Soup, where basically say if Knight players wanted some more command points, you could field a Loyal 32 or 2 of them, basically just there to capture objectives and rustle up an extra 10 command points, which other armies could then use on their own stratagems. While a bit of a weird mechanic, I didn't feel it was too jarring personally. In the background you often have more elite forces fighting alongside the Imperial Guard, so it didn't really bother me all that much. However you felt about bringing this mini platoon along though, we're no longer going to be seeing them fielded on their own. Army construction is flipped on its head, and we now want to be running the absolute minimum amount of detachments that we can make an army work with for command points. In general, Guard are an army that are used to having a lot of command points around. A lot of their stratagems aren't necessarily the strongest in the game, but that's sort of made up for by having lots of command points to use lots of them with, and I think it is going to be a bit of a challenge going forwards. Basically for the Guard, rather than running a standard 3 battalion list, which seemed to be a very good idea at 2000 points, we're now going to have to choose between either using fewer detachments or getting fewer command points to start with. In general there were quite a lot of positives to having multiple detachments, and it was something that we could really easily exploit in the Guard. You could have one detachment for all of your guns, such as a Cadian detachment for your heavy artillery, and then maybe have a Kaschan detachment for some durable infantry, maybe with Strachan along to put the smack down in close combat. Having multiple detachments also allows us access to the various different Vigilus formations, such as the Emperor's Fist Tank Company to allow us to get the Hammer of Sunderance on a Lehman Russ, or the Emperor's Wrath Artillery Company to allow our Basilisks to fire twice. Multiple detachments also allow for us to bring other allies along to cover key weaknesses such as being strong in close combat, which we might have been able to plug with some Blood Angels allies for example, and of course having more detachments along just means that we have more slots available, so say if we wanted to run absolutely tons of heavy support choices, then that's not going to be an issue. In general, if we want to have more detachments now, then we're typically going to be paying 3 command points per extra one, whether that's a battalion, or it's one of the more spammy type detachments such as a Vanguard Brigade or Spearhead. That's now got to be counterbalanced against just taking one single detachment and the positives that that can bring. That would allow us to start with 12 command points initially, and likely 17 command points by the end of the game, not 18 as I've written here, sorry about that. The game only lasts 5 turns now. On the plus side, if we do want a lot of slots, then Guard, as we know, are pretty good at filling out a brigade for fairly cheap. We've got cheap choices in pretty much every slot now, so at least compared with other armies it's not quite as much of an opportunity cost to build out and fill out all those slots to gain access to a few more. On the other hand though, we might get a little bit more value out of our battalions. Every single unit in the game pretty much is going to be going up in points, so it might be that we don't need anywhere near as many slots to actually fill out a 2000 point list for example. If every unit costs more, then it stands to reason that we'll need less units to fill out a 2000 point army. Certain slots could be a little bit restricted though, whether you wanted to go heavy on heavy support, or even if you just wanted to run an absolute ton of infantry squads. It's now nowhere near as easy to do that while still getting full command points. In terms of some of the detachment changes, I think it's made life a little bit harder for our super heavy vehicles, particularly Baneblades and the like. They've really taken a blow when compared with Imperial Knight armies. It's now 6 command points to field 3 Baneblades, and unlike Imperial Knights there's no way of getting that refunded. It's still 3 command points for one all on its own, and it basically means that these detachments are just going to cost a whopping amount of command points on top of the points that you already pay for the tank. In combination with some of the terrain changes in 8th edition, unless we see Baneblades and the like drop some points in compensation for all this, I'd be surprised if we see too many of them on the table. It really is quite annoying for Guard not to be able to field these super heavies in a Supreme Command, as that was a really easy job for us, as we have such cheap HQs to fill out the required slots. Now if you do want a regimental trait on a Baneblade, you're either going to be fielding it in the big 6 command point super heavy detachment, or paying an additional command point for it to buy it in via tank ace trait over the 3 command points that you'd already need to expend to unlock the super heavy auxiliary detachment. In combination with some of the changes that vehicles have seen in 9th, it really is looking that standard Lehman Russes might gain a big edge over their super heavy counterparts, even though they were already slightly ahead in my opinion. Another major shake-up in terms of detachments is that Flyer Wing is now gone. If we want to include aircraft in the Guard army, the way to get them is when you can take 0 to 2 flyers in any battalion, brigade, vanguard, spearhead, outrider or patrol. I'd say that's actually quite a decent advantage for the Guard, particularly for air cavalry, as Valkyries can be squadrons, so you can take 3 of them as 1 flyer choice, whereas most other races can only take 1 flyer per flyer choice. It means that it's still pretty easy for us to field a big air cavalry list. We could have 6 Valkyries even in 1 battalion. I'm glad that it means that it doesn't really affect us too much, particularly as it means that we will get less obnoxious lists, like things like spamming loads of Eldar flyers for example. To round this up, I thought I'd just do a little bit of theory crafting, where I drafted a Kazham Brigade type list, assuming that everything is going to be going up by about 15% in points. I know in reality some things are likely to go up far more than others. I suspect that vehicles in general will generally go up maybe a little bit more, particularly ones like artillery that ignore line of sight if the Space Marine points leagues are anything to go by. In any case, until we have the full picture, this Kazham Brigade is trying to take advantage of some of the 9th edition new rules. We've gone for a fairly light infantry component, only taking 6 infantry squads, each with a bolter on the sergeant, and led by Strachan and a company commander, and a Ministorum priest so they can have 3 attacks in close combat if needed. Also advancing alongside them, we now have 3 Hellhounds with Inferno cannons and heavy flamers and heavy stubber. These guys interest me far more, to be honest. Now they can't just be locked up in close combat, and you're still going to be able to blaze away with their flame weapons even when you're base to base. It's going to make them pretty annoying to deal with, and the heavy stubber can even fire accurately on the move as well, which is a nice touch. Behind them we have a decent gun line. We've got 3 tank commanders with battle cannons, plasma cannons, las cannon and heavy stubber. In particular, the battle cannons and plasma cannons should be extra dangerous at the moment. They've both acquired the blast keyword, which means they'll deal additional damage to both hordes and large squads of heavy infantry as well. We then have an artillery section where we have 2 basilisks, each one taking a tank ace trait for a flat 3 damage basilisk shot, and also sporting a heavy bolter and heavy stubber. At the moment they'll be able to zoom all over the place while still firing at full accuracy, which is a bit daft, but it appears to be how 9th edition rules are going to work. And then we have the Wyvern with a heavy bolter and heavy stubber, which should give us some really dedicated anti-horde, automatically getting a crazy 24 shots against any unit that contains 11 or more models. We have made this the Emperor's Wrath Artillery Company. I decided that was probably the more useful of the two, as it means that we can either double fire a Basilisk, or potentially double fire that crazy Wyvern if we are against hordes of some sort. Again, I know that this is all very theorycraft at the moment. I've just been trying to get a bit of a feel as to what our armies could start to look like in the new edition. Let me know if you have any thoughts yourself on how things might be changing for the Guard with the new detachment rules. I'll most certainly be covering the points changes for the Imperial Guard on the channel, and do a little bit of analysis with the percentage changes. If you'd be interested in seeing that, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. Finally, I'd just like to mention the channel does have a Patreon page if you are interested in supporting creating new videos. All the 40k Tactics content does take quite a while to make, so if you are enjoying regularly then any support is massively appreciated. Channel patrons get to see one video early each week, they get to vote in regular polls to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and they also get entered in automatically to the Auspex Tactics giveaways, such as the one that's coming next month, where I'll be giving away 3 copies of the Indomitors box. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then please give a look to the link in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.